In this video, I will teach you how to set up a program in Scratch that will solve for the area of different polygons. This program can be used in the math classroom to enhance understanding of calculating area, as well as creating a 21st century relevant lesson as you use code in the math classroom. My name is Ashley Tavis. I am one of the creators of csandmath.org, a site created to teach educators how to implement coding into their math classroom. I've spoken on this topic at many conferences throughout the U.S., helped many other math teachers implement these types of lessons into their own classrooms, and I've seen the amazing effects it has had on learning for my own students. Let's get started. So you'll notice here what I've done is I've created some shapes here using this drawing tool in the new sprite category. And I'm going to show you how I do this as I create my last polygon, the square. So as I come in here, we'll see if I hold down Shift, I can create a square here. And I'm going to fill this by using my fill. And I'm going to use a text box and change my color here back to black and type square and drag this to the center of my square. So easy as that, creating a sprite here using the drawing tool in Scratch. Now, as we get started with this program, you'll notice we have 5 different shapes here we want to work with. And we'll start with the square here for today. So as we do this program, we're going to start by when the sprite is clicked. So if the square is clicked, we want things to happen. The first thing we want to happen is we want to ask, what is the length of the base? And we want to ask, what is the height? Now, whatever my user types in here will be stored in this answer block. So we need to create a couple variables here that will allow us to store these variables. So you'll see I created these by clicking Make a Variable, typing in a variable here, and hitting OK. And I'm going to actually get rid of this one I created. So the variable here we want first is base. So I'm going to drag this out, and I'm going to set base to the answer they type in. Then I'm going to ask for the height. So I want to set the height, changing this in here, to the answer that they type in. So now we've got these values stored in here. Now my next task is to set my area to, and for a square we know base times height is going to give us our values. So in operators here, we will find the multiplication block, and we will multiply our base times our height to give us this value. And finally, to display this value for our users, we are noticing here in this block we could type in words as well as put in variables here, but we can't do them both at the same time. So that's why we'll grab this join block here, which will allow me to type in the area of your square is, and I can also add a variable on the end here. So I can combine text as well as a variable here. Now notice what happens. What is the length of the base? Let's try 3. And the height is 4. The area of your square is 12. Fabulous. So the next easiest thing we could do here is right-click on this code and duplicate it. And let's drag it over to our rectangle and click on this screen. The reason I'm doing this is because we know the formula for finding the area of a rectangle is the same as the square. So the only piece we need to change here in our code is typing in rectangle below instead of square. Great. And the next shape let's look at is, let's take a look at our trapezoid here. So again, I'm going to duplicate this code just for the sake of having some of these blocks, although we know this is not going to be the same formula. So in a trapezoid, we need the base 1 and base 2, and we're going to add these together, divide them by 2, and multiply by the height. So we just need to rephrase some of our questions here a bit. We'll say, what is the length of the first base? And then we can set our base 1 to that value. I'll right-click and duplicate this and say, what is the length of the second base? And I'll store this in base 2. I'll ask, what is the height? And we've got our height here already. So we need to adjust our formula here for area. So first what we said we'll do is we'll add our bases together. So we'll take base 1 and we'll add it to base 2. And we will divide this value by 2. Next, we need to multiply this value, and you'll notice order of operations can be a great conversation in your classroom around this. We'll multiply this value by the height. And in Scratch, the closest block to you is what happens first. So this will happen, this next, and finally we'll multiply by the height. And we'll drag this in for area, and we'll change our rectangle text here to trapezoid. Fabulous. 3 down, 2 to go. Let's take a look at our triangle next. So again, I'm going to take some code here and duplicate this from my rectangle in order to just speed it up a little bit. So we've got what is the base, what is the height, which we know we need for our triangle, but our area formula is the piece that needs to change. So we're going to take our base times our height, and we are going to divide this value by 2 in order to find our area for a triangle. And again, we will change our rectangle text to triangle here. Great, and one final shape, our rhombus. So for our rhombus, we need 2 new variables, and they are the diagonals here. So we'll say, what is the length of the first diagonal? And we'll set this to diagonal 1, so another variable we've created. And we'll ask, what is the length of the second diagonal? And we'll set this value to diagonal 2. And then my formula to solve this is going to be multiplying the 2 diagonals and dividing by 2. So diagonal 1 times diagonal 2, and we'll divide by 2 here. And we'll change my text down here to satisfy a rhombus instead of a triangle. So you'll notice now as we run our code, we've got different code under each shape here. So if I were to run any of these, let's try rectangle. What is the length of the base? 6 and 7. We know we should get 42. And this should work for any of our shapes here as we run through this. Now that I've taught you the steps to create this Find My Area program, I would like your next step to be getting the full student and teacher guide to this lesson. You can do this either by visiting csnmath.org, or down below in the comments, I've got the link attached to where you can visit this site to get the lesson to this lesson. So the full teacher and student guide will be under this link. Also, if you enjoyed this video, I would love to know so that I can start to make more content like this and help you implement coding into your math classroom with ease. Give me a like below if you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to subscribe for new videos every single week on how to implement code into your math classroom to help students become college and career ready, while at the same time deepening their understanding of key math concepts.